So the first thing we want to do from our specifications window is click our Add button, as indicated by the green plus sign. And that brings us to our item window. And I like to think of the item window as the client-based information, as the information we put on this window will be seen on the proposal and invoice to the client, and even certain reports that are were created for the client's viewpoint if desired. And notice that the description even says client description, allowing me to remember that this description will be seen by the client on such documents. So we could go ahead and put in something like custom sofa, and of course you could be much more verbose or elegant within your description. All of your applicable formatting is available on the right-hand side, bold, italicized, underline, etc. So you can really make the description look as dramatic as you'd like to appear on all of those documents. Let's jump for a moment onto the Picture tab. As Design Manager allows you to associate an image with the item, and that can be optionally shown on the proposal and invoice to the client. And you can import or bring in an image in a few different ways. If you still have a scanner these days, you could click the Scan button, select the appropriate scanner device, and Design Manager will automatically fire it up and import a copy of the image directly into the picture box. Secondly, and more commonly these days, would be to use the Load button. The Load feature allows you to select an image that you may already have saved onto your computer or even network, and simply select it, and Design Manager will automatically import it for you. And lastly, most commonly these days, is the Paste Image from Clipboard button. In this case, I can go out to my vendor's website, or any website really, and simply copy an image and use the Paste Image from Clipboard to automatically import it into Design Manager. So I could jump out to Google, and I've already searched for a custom sofa, and this one looks just fine. Right-click, copy the image, and then just use the Paste Image from Clipboard to automatically bring it in to my item. Okay, let's hop back onto the Item tab, and let's enter in some additional information, such as the location. Again, we already discussed that a location can be a physical location or a conceptual location, and notice also that location is also one of our glossaries or searches, and there are the three locations that we saw on the Tree View tab: the guest bedroom and outdoor living area, and that conceptual location for time billing or design services. Let's imagine that the Carters are asking us to create the custom sofa into their master bedroom. So in that case, I could create a brand new location with the add function, but I could also use my global or company-wide list of locations that I've previously created as I found myself using them time and time again on various projects. So if I click the global list, I can see a master list of locations that I've created in the past. And in fact, here is our master bedroom. So if I click choose from the company-wide list, I then create a master bedroom into the Carter's Brigantine Beach Home specific list of locations. Choose again, and now I'm associating our custom sofa within that master bedroom. The quantity is entirely optional. If you leave it blank or 0, Design Manager will consider it as a 1 when it does its mathematics, but I often like to enter that in explicitly. The units is the unit of measure, and of course Design Manager will come pre-configured with all of your standard units. If you don't see a particular unit or an unusual unit of measure, you can always just type it in manually. We'll use each for our custom sofa. The sales category is another one of our glossaries. And the sales category can be used to classify a good or service within Design Manager so that you can gain information or run reports to answer questions such as, what was my profitability on furniture this year, or what was my total cost of goods sold for accessories? And if we look down at, let's say, furniture, which would be a good example for our custom sofa, the sales category further comes configured with an array of sales or revenue and cost of goods sold accounts. So when we go to invoice the carders ultimately for our custom sofa, we don't need to remember to use the 41,900 furniture revenue account, nor when the bills come in from the vendor do we need to remember to use the 51,900 furniture cost of goods sold account. Simply by classifying our custom sofa consistently and accurately as furniture, Design Manager will handle all of the accounting for us. And we'll go ahead and do so. And that is all of our item-based information. And quite honestly, the only thing we had to enter was the client description. Everything else is entirely optional. Now let's progress to the other side of the coin and begin to enter some of our vendor-based information. To do that, we're going to go to the component window, which we accessed again by the green plus sign or the add button. And that brings us to our component window. Notice now that our description says PO or purchase order description. This is letting us know that the information typed into this description will be seen on the purchase or work order to the vendor, along with any reports coming from the vendor's viewpoint. So we can actually input sensitive information into the description field here, such as cost information, manufacturer's catalog number, buying terms, etc., knowing that it will only be viewed by ourselves and the vendor, and the client won't ever see it. We do default the description down to keep our data entry as fast and as accurate as possible, but of course we can change that. And let's say that this will be our sofa frame. Just like we can classify our item of the custom sofa to the carders, we can also classify the component itself. And it could be merchandise, freight, crating, installation, design fee, time, etc. And besides of merchandise and time, all of the other component types are entirely customizable. So you may have freight and shipping and not need crating, or you may want to have particular components for installation and labor separated, so you have full control there as well. But for our example, we'll leave our sofa frame at merchandise. The vendor, of course, is another glossary, and let's say that we're getting our frame from Century Furniture. Ship to or shipping location. Remember on our project window we saw we had a whole bunch of various addresses, billing, site, and shipping. So the shipping address defaults down from the project, and in the case of the Carter's Brigantine Beach Home, they want to have most of the material shipped directly to their home. So Design Manager recognizes that fact and is defaulting that as my shipping location. Another such default is, how do I intend to calculate my pricing to the Carters? And I've chosen to mark up the cost at 30%. I could have also used a discount off of list method, where I might sit the Carters down with my vendor's catalog or my vendor's website, and they could select a custom sofa of their choosing, and I could say, well, the list price is X, and I can get you 20% off of that price, knowing that I could indeed get it 30 or 40% off. And I can even use a fee structure of pricing. In fee pricing, is generally used more for commercial design firms, whereby their clients are actually paying the vendors directly. So the designer procures the goods and services and receives a portion or a percentage of the cost of each of those goods and services as their income. But we'll leave our set for, again, markup at 30%. The vendor deposit percentage actually comes from my Century Furniture vendor. My terms are with Century. They're going to require me to provide half of the money for an order up front in order for it to become processed. The manufacturer's catalog number is also known as an item number or a SKU number, and if that's entered into this field, it'll appear on the purchase order itself along with a variety of your order tracking documents. Go ahead and put one in there. Now all we need to do is enter in our cost and pricing information. In Design Manager, cost is the amount the vendor is charging you, while price is the amount that we are charging the client. So let's say our frame is $1,800. Notice also that my quantity and unit of measure also default down, again trying to make our data entry as fast as possible. So in this case, our extended cost would be the same. We then mark it up 30%, and we calculate a price to the Carters for the sofa frame itself at $2,340. Now, I may prefer working in rounded figures and may decide to charge an even $2,500 for the sofa frame. I can absolutely do so just by entering it in manually into the price. Design Manager will recalculate the markup amount and even the markup percentage out to 4 decimal places. So of course you always have full control over what you will be charging your client. We'll leave it set for 30% for our example though. And if we click OK, we have our first purchase order component for our custom sofa. Now, quite commonly, you may only have a single component for an item. For example, if you go out and purchase a vase from the vendor, you're simply going to resell that vase to the client. But I like the custom sofa example so that I can have a single item, the custom sofa for the Carters, that's comprised of many different components. So let's go ahead and add a few more. We'll go back to our Add button, and notice now we're on component 002. And let's say this is our sofa fabric. We'll leave the fabric classified as merchandise. For our vendor, again, I could use my search glossary, but if I know the code for the vendor, such as Cravat, I can input it directly, and Design Manager will recognize that it's a valid code by putting the name to the immediate right of the code itself. In case of our fabric, however, let's not ship that to the Carters, but rather we'll send that right to Century so that they can fabricate our custom sofa for us. We'll leave our pricing at markup at 30%. Notice that I don't have a vendor deposit amount associated with Cravat. They'll simply invoice me upon completion of the order. Put in a catalog number. And let's imagine that our cost on the fabric is $85 per yard. We need 14 yards. We then extend the cost. We mark it up 30%, and we calculate a selling price of the fabric at $15.47. If we click OK, we now have our frame from Century and our fabric from Cravat. Let's go ahead and add one more. Back to our Add button. We're now on component 003, and this may be the sofa trim. We'll leave the trim set for merchandise. Let's get our trim from Cravat as well. Notice now, Design Manager recognizes that my last shipping location was Century and is now using that as the default. Again, trying to keep that data entry as accurate as possible. We'll mark up at 30%, no vendor deposit, catalog number. And let's imagine we get a good deal on the trim at $25 per yard. We need 16 yards. We mark up the cost, we extend the cost. We mark it up 30%, and we calculate a price of the trim at $520. Click OK, and we've got our fabric and trim from Cravat and our frame from Century. And we can see the vendor, the cost of each, the price to the Carters for each, which are then totaled in the bottom right of the item window for the custom sofa in its entirety. To the left of that, we have our default client deposit percentage. Remember that we're generally going to be asking the Carters to provide us 50% of all of the items for a proposal in order to authorize it. Again, we can always change the amount if I want to ask for an even $2,500 for the custom sofa. I can always do that as well. But we'll leave it for 50%, and notice that indeed our deposit requested amount of $2,203.50 is precisely half of our total estimated price of $4,407. And that's it. That's all the information we need to input for our custom sofa. Once we have it in our specifications, as I said before, we'll then be able to use this information in the process of proposing to our client and making our purchase orders and ultimately our client invoices as well. So being fully integrated, Design Manager allows you to enter everything into specifications and use that information consistently throughout the software. And if we click OK, we have our brand new custom sofa item in our master bedroom, and we are at our first of our item status codes of specifying.